when I decided to go all in one niche, it almost like I just went direct, man. I started picking up momentum, and three clients turned into 12, and then 12 turned, and now I'm looking at it, at 2 years, about 2 years later, we're at 39. We're at 39 clients, niche focused. And it's a no-brainer looking at it because it's made my life a whole lot easier, building the SOPs, building the framework for our team to be able to deliver all that stuff. It gets to a point where you're almost not guessing or not scratching your head, man. Is this campaign going to work? No, you already know what's going to happen. So from the standpoint of delivery, it takes care of that. Now, from the standpoint of client acquisition, learning the language of the marketplace, learning how they do business, learning how their clients hire them to do their business, or how to land better projects. I mean, I can talk to any decorative concrete guys or residential concrete guy, and I'll tell you, I'll connect with them right now like that because I'll know exactly how to talk to them.
Welcome to Show Me the Nuggets, where each week Joe chats with world-class entrepreneurs to find out the key principles, strategies, and processes that lie behind their outstanding achievements. Now, your host, the no bullshit serial entrepreneur, Joe Troyer.
Hey everybody, Joe Troyer here from Digital Triggers and Show Me the Nuggets. And man, I am super excited for today's podcast episode. We have Danny Barrera here on the podcast with us, who has built a successful concrete marketing agency. And man, Danny, without further ado, welcome officially to the show.
Thank you. I'm excited, and I'm very humbled to be here. By the way, I've watched you, I've followed you for years, and now I get to be in the show. So it really means a lot to me. So thank you for inviting me over.
That's awesome, man. So I met you at Josh Nelson's event. I know that you also got a little award from Josh. So you got the 2018 Rookie of the Year award from Josh Nelson, my good friend. And we met briefly at his event, and we didn't get to chat as much as I wanted to. So I was like, man, let's bring Danny on the call. So could you start out, Danny, just real quick, giving us a little background on your story, how you got started, how you ended up picking concrete marketing, and then kind of where you're at today and how you ended up winning that award?
Yeah, well, it started a long time ago. It wasn't like 2 years ago, really, where it started. So I used to work at the Fox News channel. I'm sure you guys know the Fox News Network, Fox Business Network. So I was there when they were launching the Fox Business Network. And, I always used to see all these, the celebrities and the CEOs, high profile individuals walk in and out of that building every single day. And I used to ask myself, man, what am I going to do with my life? Am I just going to stay here in the IT department, right? Just, dealing with all these tech problems all day long. And there was this one time when this young guy came to the show, just literally just a t-shirt, jeans, and he was talking about how he'd made millions of dollars on an e-commerce store, running it from his house, and that kind of sparked my interest. So I went down to the green room, and he looked like a normal guy that I could ask a question or two, and really that was my first when my eyes just opened up and said, wow, there's something on the internet. I got these tech skill sets, but I want to be able to provide more for my family, obviously, for my mother, retire my mother, my father. I've always had those goals. One thing led to another. I ended up opening up my first e-commerce store, and that was selling adult toys, out of all things, because I said, man, you know what? People want to be discreet about these things, right? So it didn't go as easy as I thought. Back then there was no Shopify, integrating a cart, getting permits, finding the wholesalers. That was just a whole few months just to put that whole thing together. But you made a few bucks here and there. I ended up losing money as well. One thing led to another, where I had to learn how to not rely on paid ads, right? On the third-tier search networks, on Google, pay-per-click, because that was just costing a lot. I'm buying an item for 19 bucks, selling for 26, and it's costing me $24 to sell the item. You do the math, it just doesn't make sense. So after doing it, I did that one store. Then I partner up with a local wholesaler of fragrances. I ended up giving that business over to him. He bought me out basically So I walk out with a little bit of cash, and I realized, man, you know what? People need help with the SEO or the pay-per-click. So I knew how to do those things. That was right around 2010 or something like that, somewhere around there. And I was still working at Fox News, so I always, I wanted to go on my own and make the jump. But at that time, I was married, two young kids, the benefits and all that good stuff, a very, very healthy salary, very good benefits and all the good stuff. But I never I never took that risk, of going out on my own. And until a few years ago, that's when I pretty much had it of working for someone else. I saw myself going in, taking the train an hour and a half each way to the city from Long Island to New York City, coming back, and just saw myself very consumed by all of this. And right around that time, I had a couple of clients, enough so that I made the calculation enough to pay the rent and put some food on the table, put it that way. So I ended up, quitting Fox, moving myself and the family over to Florida. And it did not go as planned, my brother. It did not go as planned. I went from paid, getting paid nice every week, and whether I was sick or I was showing up, taking vacations, to all cut out. And all of the sudden, clients leaving me, and nothing. I mean, it really turned out to be a very frustrating situation for me, and even for my wife at that time, that to the point that she left me because of those financial strains. And it was not an easy situation from that point. So until about 3 years ago, I found myself at probably the darkest place in my life. And I'll tell you, to the point where my bank accounts, Wells Fargo, right, sending me the letter, hey, we cannot have you as a customer, shut down my accounts, Chase cannot have an account with us, you name it, so it was very depressing, and me having to, come up with the child support money, and I couldn't get enough clients to really stabilize myself. I said to myself, man, I moved here with the right intentions, to be able to provide for my family. I know how to do, SEO the right way. I know how to get leads for our clients, but something is not clicking. And one of the problems is I was just a generalist, I was trying to get everyone else, like door knocking. I don't know if you've tried door knocking door to door nowadays here in Florida. Sir. Everyone's got someone, someone doing their SEO. Everyone's got someone doing their web design. And it's one of those things where, yes, you can make it happen. I'm not saying that it's not possible. I'm just saying when you're starting out and you have low self-confidence and nothing is working, when you sell out of desperation, you attract desperate people. And that's exactly what happened to me, right? I was working with desperate clients, until about 3 years ago, I kept seeing the Josh Nelson ads, and Josh Nelson, and seven-figure agency. And it's funny because I was living in Doral with a couple of friends at that time, and he was not too far from me. So about a year before then, I was with my friends, and I said, hey, look, this guy's running like SEO for contractors and plumber SEO, and I want to do something like that. So I ended up getting Contractor SEO, that agency, as the domain. I ranked it for SEO for contractors, and then boom, I was in business, right? I thought I was niched down, and trying to model Josh Nelson, and just seeing this guy all over the place. So that got me a few clients in the construction industry, in the contractor space. So later on, about a year after, right, I came across Josh Nelson's ads, and he talked about how to build a seven-figure business. And it was really at a time where I really couldn't even really afford that. It was one of those things where I said, man, this is the last thing I'm going to try. Other than this, I'm going to go back and get a job. That was my next step. That was out of desperation. And I did even go to an interview, and the guy running it was for a company. These guys were, they had a board and investors and all that stuff. But the main guy there told me, hey, look, his name was Nico. He's like, you have something in you that even if I give you a job, and you look like a nice guy, if I give you a job, inside you're gonna want to be out there. and for that reason, he didn't give me that job. And that was kind of like a sign for me, like, to keep going and keep trying. And anyways, I landed in the Josh Nelson 7-figure agency world, and it was really the one missing piece in my life that gave me direction. Because up to that point, I'm sure you probably have heard the Bible story of the people in Egypt, right? Going around circles and circles and circles, and you don't know because you lack in direction. So I do believe, when you lack direction, don't matter how much work you're doing, how much you're exhausting yourself, how much, if you don't have a proven process or a proven path that you're going to go and follow, it's just a long journey. And, I paid a huge price by trying to do it on my own and trying to take the shortcuts and trying to download all the information from the $25 a month WSO, get whatever. I did that stuff, and I own up to it. And I tell you right now, that guy versus who I am right now, a completely different mindset. But once I got plugged into Josh Nelson, I was in a call with a Wednesday call with Jeff Fisher, one of the coaches there, amazing guy. And yeah, one of the things he's like, what's your niche? What's your problem? And I said, I have this contractor SEO agency thing, and I got a couple of clients, and we started, bouncing around different ideas. I knew I did not want to work with attorneys or doctors. I knew, just for me, it's just not my type of crowd. I love them. I have a lot of attorney friends nowadays, but it's just not who I like to do business with. So anyways, contractors, and we ended up narrowing down. He helped me narrow down to the concrete industry, the residential concrete contractors, and the decorative concrete contractors, which is kind of like their, hand in hand sort of. It's like HVAC and plumber, right? It's sort of like that. I just,
did you know that vertical? When you guys picked that, did you have clients in that vertical? Or was that a completely brand new kind of niche or vertical for you?
So I did have, he did ask me if I had experience working with contractors in that space, and I did have. Luckily, I did have, and I did have results as well for someone in that space. So it was easier for me to understand, but I didn't know everything about that space.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So good stuff. So man, we both bit into e-com, so to speak. That's where we both got started. That's definitely interesting. Definitely had challenges with e-com, so that's really interesting. I actually started doing the agency model because I was having such crappy results with e-com. So for me, the agency model was just like, it was a means to an end. It was, how do I take money from Peter and pay Paul? And I just was always looking for a way to earn money with clients and then invest it in something else. And I'll tell you, man, until I really changed my priorities to building an actual agency, like nothing really worked for me, right? Like my agency never blew up. My e-com stuff never really blew up. By all means, it was successful at one point, but I never really took off. So very interesting, for sure. So you said something very interesting, that you knew that one of the issues that you had was the generalist versus the specialist. So if you were talking to somebody today, Danny, and they didn't have a niche, what would you say to them?
I mean, I would say to them, in the beginning, if you have absolutely no experience whatsoever in anything that has to do with this online world, and you just want to go out, I understand that there are certain programs that do give you that one, hey, here are the campaigns for this niche, go out there, and that gives you the confidence. It almost gives you like the results to go out there and do it. But if you don't even have that, maybe in the beginning you probably will test out the waters and see, the different niches, and maybe go to a BNI and all that stuff. But I'll tell you, after I knew what I was doing, when I decided to go all in one niche, it almost like I just went direct, man. I started picking up momentum, and 3 clients turned into 12, and then 12 turned, and now I'm looking at it, at 2 years, about 2 years later, we're at 39. We're at 39 clients, niche focused, and it's a no-brainer looking at it, because it's made my life a whole lot easier. Building the SOPs, building the framework for our team to be able to deliver all that stuff. It gets to a point where you're almost not guessing or not scratching your head, man. Is this campaign going to work? No, you already know what's going to happen. So from the standpoint of delivery, it takes care of that. Now, from the standpoint of client acquisition, learning the language of the marketplace, learning how they do business, learning how their clients hire them to do their business, or how to land better projects. I mean, I can talk to any decorative concrete guys or residential concrete guy, and I'll tell you, I'll connect with them right now like that, because I'll know exactly how to talk to them. When I was as a generalist, I was leads. I was getting you more leads, more jobs, and I thought that was their language. But it comes down to that. Not everyone wants more leads. I'll tell you that right now. Not every concrete contractor wants more leads. So you're sending that email out, hey, I can get you 20, 30 leads, and I did that. And that's what got me started, but up to looking, from now to where I began in the niche, being in the niche, it definitely gives me the confidence to just be an authority in the place. And when you're an authority, I mean, people, your prospective client, your marketplace really looks up to you, and they come to you, and then they compare you to whoever else is coming to them selling them services. That's it's a big difference. That makes yeah.
That makes perfect sense. It's I know that I thought that I was smart like you, building a contractor focused agency, and I built it very quickly to 7 figures in just under 4 months. Just over 84 grand a month recurring. And man, I hated the business. I hated the business that I had built. From sales was difficult, churn was difficult. And it's, for me, the takeaway after building that agency, hating it, and then ultimately exiting because I just hated the business that I built. It was like, man, I got to get serious about picking a niche, and I got to niche down, and I got to focus on, putting the blinders on. And when I tell people and when I coach people that, like, you got to pick a niche, man, sometimes it's hard for me to get a point across how important I really think that is. So yeah, man, I think you did a great job talking about, what the rubber met the road ultimately, and your agency took off when that happened, and how fulfillment and sales and everything is so much easier if you'll just pick a niche and stay in your own lane, I say.
And deciding to be an authority in that niche, like that's the end goal. I tell you right now, like, people get on the phone nowadays with me, and you can hear their voice shaking because they think I'm something else. I'm not. I just put myself out there. Like, seriously, they're like, I watch your videos, I watch the webinar. Yeah, I got your CDs because I send out CDs. But anyways, yeah, it's a different conversation. It's no longer selling. Or trying, it's just discovering, their needs and how you can help them. Yeah, big difference.
So you said when somebody gets started that it doesn't really matter, like, go to the BNI, get in a couple clients. I agree. I think that it's kind of a slippery slope though, right, to not picking a client. So what would your advice be to somebody that's maybe, I heard this the other day at an event that I was throwing last week. Somebody said that they were dating niches. And I'm like, yeah, I get it. And I've been there. I've given myself that excuse, right? Like, I'm just dating. Once I find the right one, right, then I'll switch. And for me, I don't think it's really the right one, right? I think it's just about committing to one and sticking with one.
Of course. Yeah.
At what point would you tell somebody, if they were just getting started, like, when should you pick a niche, or how would you tell them to go from a generalist to a specialist?
I mean, I do think as the ones that are out there selling the service or giving services to our clients, it's our duty, our obligation. It's our moral obligation to understand what the heck we're doing. Because I see a lot of people just, watching a course and maybe getting a wholesaler or whatever. They don't understand that they go and they misinform the clients or the prospects on information completely erroneous, right? And they sell them, they then burn that niche. They give that niche, our world, a bad rap because you don't know. So in the beginning, yes, you want to get to know, how things work in the marketing world. You want to know the process of getting someone in the maps and all that stuff. But as soon as you're confident to know the difference between, what it is that what generating a lead from pay-per-click is, or how it works, or you've seen it first place and you got that piece of confidence, it's more of a self-assessment where you want to see, what you're willing to commit to, and you don't want to go wandering around because you're going to waste time. I'm telling you right now, in 3 months, I'm telling you right now, I'm a different person in 3 months that I was last 3 months or 6 months or a year from now. And time flies. So if you're just dancing around with different people, you're going to burn through a year not going to have momentum. You're going to look back, hate yourself, and be like, man, this thing doesn't work, right? You're going to go back into real estate or whatever other thing, another shiny object, because you never decided to be a student of okay, I know what I can do with this skill sets. Where am I willing to apply it based on my background, based on situations that I've had in the past, people that I've worked with, industries that I'm interested in, what fascinates me. Like I'm fascinated by construction. That's something I'm fascinated by, decorative concrete, purely fascinated by it. I have a lot of friends in that space now, but I'm fascinated by it. I want to be around these people. So so as soon as you can, you're confident, in the delivery system, and then see what you can mostly commit to. I know, there's going to be reinventions of every entrepreneur at some point, right? You got to reinvent yourself at some point, but be willing to commit to something and say, okay, I'm going to go down this path, and even through the trials that it brings, trying to discover how this works, stick to it no matter what. Because I've definitely had, situations that I didn't know everything about the industry, but I stuck with it no matter what, no matter what. So it's a matter of commitment, assessment and self-commitment. Yeah, two things I'd say.
Cool, man. So basically what you said, Danny, if I had to recap, would be like, get in some verticals, test it out, make sure that you can get the results. Once you feel like you understand what you're doing, that then and there is when you should start really, when you know that you have the confidence, you can deliver leads, with SEO or maps, or you said PPC, when you got the blinders on, you know that you can deliver results, then ultimately that's the transition point where you should start probably looking into picking a vertical.
Yeah, and if you worked with that vertical and you don't like how certain people treat you or how you are, because I know concrete can be very rough. Like if you go straight up to the residential concrete guys, try to call them up, sell them some marketing services, they're going to hang up right there. They're not even going to let you spit out 3 words. So you got to know those little situations of what's going to be dealing with the individuals in that market. So that's important too. How comfortable are you going to feel dealing with them on an everyday basis? Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, I mean, you brought up like attorneys and like white collar verticals. That's not me. I've been always a blue collar guy. So you definitely got to figure out what works best for you. Definitely agree there.
Absolutely.
So you said you have, I think you said 34 clients right now, Danny, roughly?
39. We're at 39
clients. Can you talk about packaging? What's worked for you in terms of packaging? What hasn't worked for you in terms of packaging? What are your thoughts on in terms of packaging?
Yeah, packaging, so the decorative concrete side, because not every service area has search volume, number one is I can rank them any day of the week like this in 1-2 weeks. You can do that. Everyone could do that. That's not the problem. The problem is that no one is searching for those terms in every service area in the United States. Decorative concrete is still a fairly, very, very new industry, and just getting these guys to understand, how we can utilize social media campaigns can be the entryway, the way in, for example, right? So for those guys, we tend to lean over to the social campaigns, Facebook ads, Pinterest ads, and YouTube ads for them. And we try to tap into anything that has to do with the outdoor living. People are looking for ideas, etc., and just throw them into an awareness campaign. Get some nice videos of before and afters, and then get that going. So we're really, and these guys do understand that we're not looking for leads almost immediately. Yes, we can, but the lead conversion that happens, it usually happens at 3 months or 6 months for some of these guys. So we look at it as a 6 month term. So for those guys, the packaging is the social campaigns, right? We go for the social campaigns, more in the awareness, building that awareness. And for the residential concrete contractors, Google search, maps optimization with the Google ads just in the beginning. If they don't have any presence whatsoever, we want to get some leads through the doors. So that package, the lowest one there is at $1,200. Right, it's the bare minimum, and it goes up to $2,500 per month in recurring for those guys. And it all depends on the market. Texas is extremely competitive. California is competitive. Florida is competitive. South Florida is competitive. But you start going up north, it gets cheaper and cheaper. So So yeah, that's pretty much how we've come up with the packages. In the beginning,
So
I was selling. Sorry, go ahead.
what I just wanted to say, what I loved about what you said is you broke down the two different verticals or the sub niches, and then you have different packages because you know what works for them. You didn't try to pick a package first, then randomly pick a niche and then try to shove it together and make it work. When I'm helping people through this process and engineering packaging and their deliverable and picking a niche, a lot of times they don't think like that, right? It's not about what works for the client, and they're just leaning on, what they know works and then picking a random niche, and then it doesn't work. So I just wanted to make a little point of observation there. I loved how you broke down the packages.
Yep, yep. And that's why it's important to be niche down. Is you will not know that data, that information. Other than this video, you probably people are selling. And I gotten
Yeah.
messages from people. It's like, hey, I noticed you're in decorative. Can you give me some tips on what to sell? I'll tell you right now, you're selling SEO to them, you're not gonna get much results, and they're gonna throw you out the window in 3 months. That's the bottom line. That is the bottom line.
In terms of packaging, then what's your goal in terms of profit margin?
Yeah, minimum 30% at a
Okay.
minimum. Yeah,
Yep.
and I'm a 12 full-time employees right now, 6 part-time.
Okay.
So I try to keep it at a minimum of 30%. We can go higher, that's fine. But that's kind of like what I'm looking for.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah, I find a lot of times people that are building agencies don't have a ton of like accounting experience or business experience. And so they build an agency and they don't know what their profit margin should be. And so because they don't have a baseline or any idea, oftentimes when I'm looking at an agency's books, like they're frankly just spending way too much money on fulfillment. And with a couple of tweaks, I mean, we can make a whole world of a difference in terms of cash flow that they see at the end of the day. So always a point of reference for me, I'm looking at, different successful agencies and what's their cash flow model look like.
Yeah, and I'm glad that Josh Nelson pointed me to the profit first. And
Yep.
that was when I started making a little bit of money. He's like, hey, you got to get this book. So
Yeah.
so that's a very, very good starting point, having those different bank accounts open, and
Yep.
just the way you funnel your money and assess your money. It makes a big difference versus just managing from one and then just you don't even know what's going on, a lot of times.
When you look at the concrete space, what's a good qualified prospect for you? Like who aren't you going to talk to and who will you talk to? What's your filter
For
look
me,
like?
as an agency or for me.
Yeah, your agency.
Okay. Yeah, they're definitely established. They have over 5 employees at a minimum of $1 million in gross revenue. So when they're at about $1 million, they can definitely afford you. If they're under that, you're really just you can get the guys just starting out. And you got to keep in mind some of these projects might be $20,000 for these guys.
Yep.
$100,000, $250,000. But if you don't understand their sales process, sometimes it takes them 2 years to land or finish a project, because of permits and all this stuff. So for me, it's someone that's already at 7 figures. I know that if they've done that the prior years, they've got some cash flow or some money, that they can upfront for advertising, because it's
Yep.
not something that they're going to see tomorrow,
Yep.
in most cases. So that's something that I look at in minimum 7 figures. For the decorative guys, 500,000. Okay, it's a little bit different.
Gotcha.
So 500,000 for those guys. And for the decorative guys, some of these guys are almost like artists. I'm not sure if you've seen the type of work that they
Yep.
do. They stain, they can make whatever you can think of out of concrete. Some of these guys carve out concrete, and there's not that many of them in the United States. So for these guys, $500,000, they usually have 2-3 guys working for them, and they travel across the United States to get their type of job. So that's the main criteria. If they invest in any type of online marketing before,
Yep.
that would be an ideal client. What I found out is that the industry right now is it's in an interesting situation because the majority of established concrete company owners, they're in the older demographic. They were way old and they built a name, a reputation. They've got the trucks, they got the equipment. Those are the big assets that architects and construction companies look for when they hire a company. So you know what? By default, they almost get all the jobs. So
Yep.
they don't really think about online marketing as much as other companies like plumbers, for example, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Plumbers know they got to be on the maps. These guys, you see them, you know, you'd be like, how are they making all this money if they're not even on the maps? Well, it's connections. So I look at them differently. So one of the main references, I guess, it would be the revenue and like how long they've been in business and all that stuff. So yeah.
Man, this is great. I think people are going to love how you talk about the niche, and they can really tell, people are going to be able to tell that you really care about the results, that you can bring the niche, and ultimately that you are a specialist. And hopefully this gives them motivation as well to go out and to be a specialist versus a generalist. So
Yeah.
absolutely love it, man. So when it comes to expectations, the client signs on the dotted line today, Danny. How do you set expectations? I see that so many agencies, man, like so many just set no expectations. So many agencies set just horrible expectations that they can't even live up to. And then it's no wonder why in 3 months or 6 months, right, they get the boot. So I'm really curious, man, when it comes to setting expectations, how do you do it? And what are your thoughts on setting expectations?
Yep. It's all relative, and I know that's a broad answer, but man, I've done it myself too. You know, I've overpromised and underdelivered. I've shot myself in
Yep.
the foot, and it's only through experience you get to a certain point. But I'm gonna give you the shortcut. So you got to know, you know, when it's okay, so expectations for the residential concrete guys, those guys, we know SEO takes a couple of months, at least 3 months. I tell them right off the gate, you know, we understand this industry better than anyone else you could possibly hire out there. Here are the clients' results. Here are the leads that we've generated for them. Here's what's possible. But I
Yep.
am not a magician, right? I am not a magician. I'm not gonna, you know, just go like this and you're gonna have a flood of leads. That's not how it works. This is the process. This is the game plan we're going to roll out for you. So in the first 90 days is when we start dialing in the campaign. So I give them that 90-day mark, right?
Yep.
And I tell them right off the gate is we look at this for the first 6 months. That's how we judge the success of your campaign. Give us 6 months and you will see a different, you know, just a night and day difference in where you are online and the type of jobs that you're generating, the opportunities coming to you. As we're growing your reputation, your reviews and all that stuff, you're going to notice that the amount of time that it takes you to close a deal, it's going to be way less because people know you're reputable. They know, you know, so I start talking about that. So that's how I frame that one conversation. For the decorative guys, it's different because, you know, we can flood them with Facebook leads, but all those leads, they're just in the awareness mode. They're not ready to make a deal. You know, if they quote them for $8,000 to just, you know, do a concrete coating, most people are not ready for that commitment right now.
Yep.
You know, so it's in nurturing that and tell them, hey, look, you know, we have a probability of getting you at a minimum of 15, 20 leads in the first month, and that may very well happen. But you got to look at, you know, these are leads that we're going to nurture so that we can, you know, start converting in a couple of months. And we use High Level as a nurturing platform, and
Yep.
through that system, we're able to nurture those leads for them. Which also helps out, you know, in bringing value to these individuals. So I let them know, hey, look, the first month, yeah, you know, they usually do land a couple of you know, pretty decent like estimates that they give out. But put yourself in their shoes, Troyer. Like we work out of an office. These guys, if they're out on the road and they got to manage 2-3 jobs a day,
Yep.
they don't want to drive 50 miles out to just go and talk to someone that's going to say no. So they don't
Yep.
want to waste their time. So my job is to provide them the best possible results, you know, and that means is if the awareness campaign, we try to let people know that this is not a cheap, you know, a widget, right? If it's going to be, you know, starting at $2,500 for a 2-car garage, you know, concrete, epoxy flooring,
Yep.
whatever, you know, $500 discount, they already know, hey, this is going to be 2,000 at a minimum or whatever, right? So
Yep.
those little things, that's how I set the expectations there.
I love it, man. And again, I think your niche expertise just shone through, right? It's not so much about, you know, the leads, right? But it's actually getting them business. And if you just stop at getting them leads, they're never gonna last. So that's well said for sure. You've talked a lot so far, Danny, about being an expert or viewed as an authority in your niche. What do you think are kind of the top things that you've done? And where's your head go? And what are the things you're thinking about doing in the vertical to become even more of an expert?
I mean, what made my life easier in the beginning was getting that the cheat sheet, the checklist out of Josh Nelson's seven-figure agency program. He literally gave me like everything, like the book, the webinars, and everything. And yeah, that shortcuts the process, so I have no excuses. But there's still a little bit of work to be done, because you got to plug in the data and all the information and all the book and all that stuff. So starting with that checklist gets me a ton of leads every single month. That's one of the first things. And there are a couple of people that are using it in my space, so the one thing is, you have those assets like the checklist. If you have an ebook that's industry related, definitely have it. I am in the middle of editing our book, the internet marketing book for us, so that we can publish it. I did take a little bit more time than I should have, just because I want to make sure it's a good, it's good quality, and webinars, right? Webinars targeted specifically to the industry. For my industry, I've noticed that my webinar attendance is down to the floor. I'm talking about like 3-4 guys. That's my record webinar attendance, but that's because these guys are on the road every day, and I still have a little bit more discovery to do on the best times and all that stuff. But when I send them the CD, I sent them, that's something that Josh told me, hey, try send them an MP3 CD, just see what happens. Mail those out, man, got responses. Next month did the same thing, got more responses. Next month I did the same thing. So for my industry, doing hard assets, like printed material that they can feel and they can read, that's branded. And if you follow up with a phone call, that opens up the door right out of the gate. And this is positioning. They see Concrete Marketing Crew, the marketing magazine. They look at it, concrete marketing help, and it's a call to action. It tells them what to do. Even if they open it up, and they see my name, and these are things that help out. So webinars, printed material. If you can send direct mail letters, make yourself tangible in some way, shape, or form. Let me see what else is working very well. Instagram has helped us very, very like 30% of my business comes from Instagram right now.
Wow.
And it's from the material that we're posting out there. It's just little, the Dennis Yu formula, 3x3, right? The who, why, and what. That's the type of content we create. So, just making the commitment to record ourselves, get myself in camera and record that, and then republish it and keep pushing that. That's working very well. And that's a positioning tool. That actually helped me get a speaking engagement recently. So I just came from Dallas from the Concrete Decor show of 2019, and God has been good, man. That show really, something that the guy that put together the event told me, is like, I checked out your Instagram, and I wanted you to talk about Instagram for that matter. So you just never know. You just never know what people are clicking on, but it did help out, that I came from the seven-figure agency group, and I have all the resources available there. But that's a positioning. If you can get yourself on stage, that's the ultimate positioning. Then get yourself in published books, in the checklist, and then get yourself out there on video. Not be afraid. I don't look like the prettiest guy out there. I'm not 7 foot tall. Blue eyes. I don't look like Joe there. Joe Troyer. But a lot of times even we question ourselves. Oh, am I saying this right? Sure. I have an accent, right? But I'll tell you, Instagram has definitely opened up a lot of doors, and it's all organic. It's like I don't use any bots, none of that stuff. It's just
cool, man. Well, thank you for kind of the cheat sheet, so to speak, and helping us understand what's working for you. I'm curious these days, man, Danny, what's your day-to-day look like? You got a lot going on. You built a successful agency, talking to us about, just going and speaking at this show. What's day-to-day look like for you? Yeah,
so at 8 in the morning every single day, we have the daily huddle call with the team, the project managers. Each department, like the SEO has their project manager, the web design has their, everyone, so I meet with the team leaders. And that's about a 15-minute call, and it's basically what they worked on the day before, where are they working today, and what problems do they need help with. And it's just a quick going around the room and just troubleshooting. delegating from there. We use teamwork
Yep.
as our back end, so that gives us a lot of accountability, a lot of automation, like really cool things we do there. After then, it's sales calls. Sales calls until about 2 p.m. or so, and then I get back into seeing what else I need to do for our client delivery. Maybe give a couple of clients a call, and yeah, at the end of the day, I wrap it up, see if I could do any more outreach prospecting. But I'll tell you right now, it's probably 60% of the day is in sales activities. It's
Yep.
just being proactive there, and then the other 40% is optimizing the processes or whatever I can help with in the daily delivery. Yeah.
Beautiful. And what do you think the future day-to-day looks like? You think you're going to stay in the sales side of things and working
No,
that?
no,
You
I'm
trying
in
to
the
get
middle
some
of
people
hiring
on
up
to help you
sales.
with sales? Okay.
Yeah, you see a desk right there. I got to fill that one out. This one right next to me. So definitely I need to get a couple of salespeople here because yeah, I have more leads than I can handle right now. Like it's a good thing to say. I don't say it bragging, but it's a good problem to have. It's not being able to get back to people. Sometimes I just look at them and I'm like, I don't think I want to give this person a call, but I definitely have an overflow and a lot of opportunities coming up. So that's something that I'm looking for right now.
Awesome, man. Yeah, it's great to be in that position, but I know myself being in that position, it almost feels like you're squandering or losing opportunity, right? So it's like, man, I gotta make sure we take full advantage while we can, right? Like while it's sunny, we got to be out there taking advantage of the sunshine. Cool, man. I'm interested in one big last question for you, and we'll start wrapping this up. When it comes to the 80-20 and building a niche market agency, what are the fundamentals that you think you got to really work on, right, in order to build that agency?
Yeah, I mean, you got to be crystal clear who your market is and who they serve. If you're not clear on, like, saying one thing is saying I help residential concrete contractors. Another thing is understanding who they sell to and how is their sales process. Because if you understand that, now you become like an authority. Like they really look at you as a consultant rather than just an internet marketing SEO guy. When you can talk to them at that level of understanding their language, niching down, it's extremely crucial to understand their language. Eben Pagan, I learned this from him, is words are the currency of the mind. Words are the currency of the mind, and every day internet marketers and salespeople are using penny words, thinking that they're $100 words in their prospects' minds, and that's how they're talking to their prospects. And they're complaining, "Hey Troy, that email didn't work. Hey Troy, that I did that sales presentation, it didn't work. I didn't build rapport." Well, you're using penny words. Like if you're using 5 pennies versus talking to someone in $100 words, changes the game. So understanding your market at that level, understanding their lives and like how they go about doing business every day, what their day looks like, and being able to talk to them at that level, that changes the conversation. You build rapport like this, and when you build rapport, your sales process, man, you can build value. And when value is clear, decisions are easy. So people are able to just, yeah. Oh wow, this guy knows me. Oh wow, yeah, you're different. You can close deals way easier than just
Awesome.
forcing yourself to it.
I
Yeah.
love that. Beautiful, man. Very well said. Very, very well said. All right, so one last question, Danny, and I'll let you go. So instead of asking you to recommend 3 books like most people do on a podcast, what's one book, right, that when you look at your business, you can tell has made the biggest impact on the way that you do business, and why?
Hey, that's a tough question, man. You got me there. I love the Think and Grow Rich. I love the
Yep.
10x mentality. 10x, you see that little flag.
Yes, sir.
But the one book that's been with me when I was in the car alone, I was literally, I slept on my car for a couple of weeks, trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life. It was this one right here. Agmandino, the greatest salesman in the world. When you read it, you start out with, let me read this here. I will persist until I succeed. I was not delivered into this world into defeat, nor does failure curse in my veins. I am not a sheep waiting to be prodded by my shepherd. I'm a lion, and I refuse to talk, to walk, to sleep with the sheep. The slaughterhouse of failure is not my destiny. I will persist until I succeed. And that's it, man. And you go through a couple of these chapters, very powerful. Definitely helped me really, when I was at my lowest, just kind of like, stay with that mindset and not giving up. Because if you're in business, you're going to have challenges. So, getting this primed is very important.
Getting your head right is the biggest thing, man, and being accountable for your actions. So love that. And that's not the type of book that's typically shared. So really thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it. So Danny, man, thank you for spending the last 45 minutes or so with me. It's been freaking amazing. Thanks for sharing for the heart. I love what you're up to. And if there's anything ever, man, that I can do to help support you, don't hesitate to give me a shout. I'll make sure to link up your website and your Instagram as well. Anything else, man, that we should put in the show notes for you?
No, man. Follow Joe Troyer. I mean, he's here. He's putting out content that's very valuable. And I'm telling you right now, if you're just starting out, if you've been in the business for some time, you listen to individuals that are making it happen and that are connecting to other individuals. It's just expanding your world. So definitely tune into him. And thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate you.
Yeah, man. My pleasure. All right, everybody. Joe Troyer here from Digital Triggers, signing out.